This morning we published a report titled More Than a Human Can Bear, dealing with Israel's systematic use of sexual, reproductive and other forms of gender-based violence since 7 October 2023. Our report finds that Israel has increasingly employed sexual, reproductive and other forms of gender-based violence against Palestinians as part of a broader effort to undermine their right to self-determination. It also concludes that Israel has carried out genocidal acts through the systematic destruction of sexual and reproductive healthcare facilities. The report documents a broad range of violations perpetrated against Palestinian women, men, girls and boys across the occupied Palestinian territory since 7 October 2023 that constitutes a major element in the ill treatment of Palestinians and are part of the unlawful occupation and persecution of Palestinians as a group. The report released today summarises the findings of our investigations since October 2023 into these issues. It is the first in-depth UN investigation into sexual, reproductive and other forms of gender-based violence by the Israeli security forces and Israeli settlers since October 2023. The methodology used in preparation of the report is set out in paragraph 6 of the document released today. It's the standard methodology for UN investigations of this kind. Our report is based on interviews with victims and witnesses, including expert medical witnesses, some of whom appeared during the public hearings which we have conducted over the last 2 days. The report lists a number of conclusions. I draw your attention to one that perhaps best summarises the bottom line at the end of our investigations. That's contained in paragraph 223. The frequency, prevalence and severity of sexual and gender-based crimes perpetrated across the occupied Palestinian territory leads the Commission to conclude that sexual and gender-based violence is increasingly used as a method of war by Israel to destabilize, dominate, oppress and destroy the Palestinian people. The Commission documented a pattern of sexual violence, including cases of rape and other forms of sexual violence, torture and other inhumane acts that amount to war crimes and crimes against humanity. Israel continues to obstruct the Commission's investigations and prevent its access not only to Israel itself but also to the occupied Palestinian territory. As mentioned in the report, several requests for information and access were sent to the Government of Israel, including requests for information on specific cases of sexual and gender-based violence carried out by members of the Israeli security forces. The Commission has not received any information about prosecutions of members of the Israeli security forces or Israeli settlers for sexual and violence committed since October 2023. The definition of genocide is the same in the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court and in the much older Genocide Convention. And it's a complex definition. Like all crimes, it has two elements, action and intention. We, at this stage, are only looking at action, and therefore our report deals with two categories of genocidal act. The definition contains, in fact, 5 categories of genocidal act. And when we gather evidence and prepare our reports, we look to the various categories of crime under international law to see whether the acts that we have investigated meet the standards, meet the definitions contained in the law. The second side of genocide is intention. And the genocide definition is especially complex because it has 2 different elements of intention. One is a general intent, the intent to do the acts. But the second is a special intent, the intent to do the acts for the purpose of destroying a protected group in whole or in part. So when we refer to 2 categories of genocidal act, we are referring only to one part of the legal definition. We have not yet looked comprehensively at the definition as a whole, and specifically, we have not yet looked at the question of genocidal intent. At some stage we'll do that. We are collecting evidence, we are producing our reports, You will have seen them going back now from our establishment. Our first reports were in 2022, but in particular our reports in 2024 and now 2025 are looking at the events since October 7, 2023. And we will have to look at the question of genocidal intent, but we have not yet done so. So that's the legal explanation of where we have reached, but also where we are going. Your second question dealt with the response from the Israeli mission here in Geneva. I was quite surprised to see that response. Netanyahu has said that Israel will not participate in the Council or any of its processes. So I'm worried that the Israeli mission here may be disciplined for breaching that order of the Prime Minister of Israel. So, yeah, a bit surprised. Look, the bottom line is, as usual, it's all lies. They clearly do not read our documents. They clearly have an agenda that they pursue, totally devoid from any relationship to fact. It's just chronic lying. I note a very rapid turnover of the staff dealing with media at the Israeli mission here. I assume that's because they are people with journalistic backgrounds who get fed up with having to lie all the time. I note that even Hagari now has finally given up. So I don't take it very seriously.